morning, John. Thank you for joining us for an on-demand video for the Incline group this year. We appreciate you taking the effort to explain about concrete ready mix and what goes in and is involved in that process and that industry. If you could quickly introduce yourself and what you do for Summit Materials.
Sure. My name is John Malcolm, and I'm the Vice President of Concrete Performance. And what that really means is I work with all the ready mix companies in Summit to help them improve their performance in any way, whether we're talking about financially or just particular facets of their business.
Good. We've been asking all the on-demand presenters, what is the favorite part about your day or your career and job?
I mean, my favorite part about this particular job that I have is working with the field employees at the line level at the operating companies. You know, it's an opportunity for me to pass on my experience and to work with people to help them grow and develop, and that's been a really satisfying part of this job.
Good. And then my last question that we've asked everyone is, if you had a bit of career advice, what would you give students that are graduating and entering the workforce?
I think probably the best advice I can give to someone starting out is whenever anyone offers you the opportunity to learn, always say yes. It is, I think, one of the most important things. You're going to be surrounded by a lot of people with a lot of experience and a lot of opportunity. And saying yes is the best way to accelerate through that, I think, as you start your career. I think it's a good premise for your whole career, but especially.
Exactly. Okay, well, I will pass the presentation off to you. And again, we appreciate your support with these with this program, Incline. These have been valuable lessons that they've learned, especially those that weren't able to get an internship this year because of coronavirus. So again, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Amanda. Okay, can you see?
Yes, it looks great.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, so today I'm going to go through the basic process of a ready-mix concrete company. I'm going to talk a little bit about concrete so that you understand it a little bit as a building material and kind of its place in the world. An engineer would describe concrete as something that can be is a flexible building material. Basically able to be placed in many different environments, resistant to chemical exposure, to weather, environmentally safe and recyclable, which is something people don't often think about as concrete, and an efficient way to build many types of structures. So you'll see here just a couple of different things that could be built with concrete. It's far and away not limited to these things. And we're going to talk a little bit about kind of the official uses of concrete. But you saw there a bunch of different kinds of structures, things that could be, you could see in almost any construction site. A couple of fun facts about concrete. Annual global production of concrete is about 5 billion cubic yards. Twice as much concrete is used in construction around the world in compared to any other building material, wood, steel, plastic, aluminum. After around 4 weeks, concrete has reached 90% of its final strength. However, it continues to gain strength for decades afterwards. And due to the conversion of calcium hydroxide and into calcium carbonate, it also absorbs carbon dioxide, which is something that I think is also not usually talked about related to concrete. So the figures here on the left-hand side, it shows the use of Portland cement. Portland cement is the main ingredient in concrete, and you'll see that about 70% of the Portland cement produced around the world is is actually goes into ready-mix concrete. And then you'll see a whole bunch of other concrete-related industries off to the left, and those are all much smaller, obviously, but still things that are relevant to our industry because sometimes we work in those groups as well. On the right-hand side, it shows kind of the breakdown of the kinds of projects, and the biggest pieces there are residential buildings, streets and highways, and then commercial buildings. And then, the rest of those things kind of make up things. They're small pieces that you would think of in construction. I think one of the ones I'll point out because it's a big cement user is oil well cement, and our business in West Texas actually supports some of the oil well applications. So it's one of the things that you could run into looking at some of our businesses across the country. So what is concrete? Concrete is 6% air. It's 11% Portland cement. It's 41% gravel and crushed stone and 26% sand, which is the fine aggregate, and then 16% water. One of the things I think is really important for you to understand about the concrete business in relation to Summit Materials is that the gravel and sand of those are also products that we make a significant amount of. Our aggregates is by far our largest business. And so we are a large downstream user of a lot of our own products. And it's one of the reasons we're in the concrete business. Also in those mixtures can be chemical admixtures, and there's things there to reduce the amount of water, to accelerate set or retard set, a lot of different applications that can be further changed through chemistry. And then mineral admixtures. And if you look, I've shown you, so these two powders, the two piles of powder there, one of those is granulated blast furnace slag, and that's the one on the right. And the one on the left is fly ash, which is a byproduct of coal production. And that's the one on the left. And the corresponding pictures at the microscopic level shows you how they look in a matrix in concrete. So they are additional products that we use. They're really recycled byproducts. So it's one of the things we do to increase the amount of recycled materials in our mixes. Let's talk a little bit about the history of concrete. And this is one of my favorite pieces. Rome was built significantly out of concrete. A lot of the major structures you've seen from Roman architecture, like the Colosseum, were constructed out of a very primitive concrete. It was a cooked limestone and water and aggregate mixture, but clearly it didn't require modern design in order to last for a long time. The structure is significantly intact and has been there for a very long time. And there's an awful lot of structures throughout the old Roman Empire that are there and still standing. This is kind of the history of concrete in modern times. And I won't read through all these, but one of the things I'll point out is in 1860, Portland cement, which you'll hear a lot when you're at a ready-mix facility. It's basically a design for cement that was named after Portland, England, which is where a particularly good deposit of limestone was first discovered to produce cement. And that has stayed with it, and then for a long time since then. I think one of the things that I think is most impressive is the creative ways that people have found to use concrete over history, and the thought of first deciding to build that in a structure, I always think is fascinating because it is a totally different kind of construction than what would have been done over the course of most of history. So let's talk a little bit about the concrete supply chain, and I use this picture. It's not really important, all the things that are in here, but just to kind of let you see what happens. So up here in the upper left-hand corner is an aggregate facility, and they produce, for the sake of this conversation, they produce stone and sand and gravel. And those materials are shipped to the ready-mix plant. This is a cement plant. Those materials are shipped to the ready-mix plant and stored, and I'll show you a little bit more of that in a couple of slides. Also, the producer has got dispatch and billing and invoicing and regular business functions that are required. Materials are put together at the concrete plants, the mixed management and quality control, which we'll talk a little bit about in a few minutes. And these are things that, this looks like a relatively kind of old school facility, but what you'll see is almost all of our production processes are driven by computers and are measured to a significant level as far as controls are concerned. Obviously, our customers are a very important part of this whole process, and when we are exchanging right now, we're exchanging paper as well as products and stuff with them just to document everything that's done on a job site, which needs to be then handed over to the job site folks. Those things are used then to administer our business or their business as time goes on. So it's just kind of the cycle of where we go from raw materials to delivering to the job site. We're going to talk a little bit more about each one of these, but that is the big picture. So what I want to show you next, now this is going to be a little bit long, but this is a new NRMCA, and NRMCA stands for National Ready Mix Concrete Association. So it's the major association related to ready mix concrete. And it is produced with the focus on the most important thing that as a new employee, you will do when you go to a ready mix plant, and that's stay safe. It's a ready mix facility. If you've never been to one before, or you've only spent a little bit of time in one before, they're busy. They're well organized, but they have a tight traffic pattern. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of materials moving. And so they can be dangerous. They're designed not to be dangerous. And if you follow the rules that you're supposed to, I want to say that you'll be as safe there as you are anywhere. But the first thing, and we'll talk a little bit after the video is over, the first thing I want you to see is what National Ready Mix says you do to be safe at a concrete facility.
Welcome to a lesson in the National Ready Mix Concrete Association's online safety series, Ready Mixed Concrete Plant Safety. The plant safety video lesson was generously funded by the RMC Research and Education Foundation. There is a lot of activity at a ready-mix concrete plant. Aggregates and cement are transported by various methods to scales and batchers. They are mixed, and then they're put into mixer trucks. Ready-mix concrete trucks are rinsed, the concrete slump is checked, and the trucks are ready for the road. Dump trucks bring raw materials to the plant, and tankers deliver cement to silos. Front-end loaders move materials around the plant. And in short, a ready-mix concrete plant is like a small city. Whether you're a plant operator, yard man, mechanic, concrete delivery professional, or you're just a visitor, you have to pay attention to what you are doing and follow basic safety procedures at all times. In this video, We will cover plant-specific safety, including plant vehicle traffic, wearing the proper personal protective equipment, general plant safety signage, prevention of slips, trips, and falls, general plant safety inspections, lockout and tag out of power sources, and plant housekeeping, and much, much more. As mentioned earlier, concrete plants are busy environments. Specifically, the number of vehicles operating at a concrete plant are numerous and continuous. Throughout a typical workday, there are any number of vehicles moving about, including concrete mixer trucks, cement tankers, aggregate haulers, company and personal vehicles, forklifts, front-end loaders, and other industrial vehicles. All personnel at a concrete plant should constantly have their eye out for moving vehicles, whether entering the concrete plant property, exiting a structure at the plant, or simply working in the plant's yard. Also, personnel should be aware of the special dangers of trucks that are backing. As well, look out for and obey any and all signage for designated walkways inside and outside of the plant. And finally, remember, make sure you give all vehicles the right of way. Depending on your job and work assignment at a concrete plant, the PPE that you should wear will vary. As a certified delivery professional, a hard hat, safety vests, safety glasses, chemical-resistant gloves, and the appropriate safety shoes need to be worn. While performing the duties of a yardman or laborer, a hard hat, safety vest, safety glasses, and appropriate safety shoes will be required. Additionally, you may need hearing protection, a respirator, and work gloves. If your job requires you to enter a bin or a silo, dust collector, central mixer, or any confined space, then you also may have to wear a full body harness and may be accompanied by a supervisor and/or an attendant. No matter what your job is and the task at hand, you'll need the proper PPE. If you have any questions about what personal protective equipment to wear, ask your supervisor or the plant manager for guidance before performing the work task. Finally, when around welding activities, these tasks should be only performed by authorized personnel using the proper PPE. As well, any other personnel in the vicinity of welding activities should never look directly at the welding process without proper eye protection. For a plant manager or a plant operator, signage is one of the first items for review. Are there posted traffic control signs in and out of the plant? At fuel stations, there should be no smoking and flammable liquid signs. Any hazardous material needs to have proper labels and to be stored only in designated areas. Or PPE signs in the proper areas where required PPE is to be worn. Confined space entry signs need to be posted and visible to all employees in areas that are considered confined spaces. These may include central mixers, hoppers, bins, dust collectors, material storage areas such as silos, and even where some conveyors operate. These areas may only be entered after a supervisor has trained employees on the confined space entry procedures, a permit is signed by workers and supervisors, atmospheric conditions are tested, and the proper PPE is worn. Signs must be posted identifying areas that require lockout and tagout procedures before workers perform inspections, maintenance, or repair. Primary and secondary power source terminals and switches need to be completely labeled to all equipment. All breaker panels need to have individual switches labeled to identify equipment energized by these switches. There should be no gaps or missing switches. Lockout boards and signs may be posted at the plant. They should have multiple lockout devices and individual locks and keys on them, and be placed in a central location accessible to authorized employees during their work shift. If there are regulated areas at the plant, signs for those areas must be adhered to. As well, fire extinguishers should have individual signs displaying the location of each fire extinguisher. Never allow clutter or obstructions to block the pathway to the signage or the fire extinguisher at any time. All exits must be clearly marked with lighted signs. Historically, slips, trips, and falls are the leading cause of injuries at concrete plants. Always walk at the plant. Don't run. Workers and visitors should always wear the proper work shoes at all times. A good sturdy pair of lace-up boots, approved by your company, is a good place to start. The moment you arrive for work, make sure that those shoelaces are tied. By the way, those soles need to have a good tread on them for good traction. Use handrails going up and down stairs. Don't carry tools in both hands, preventing you from using the handrails. Don't put both hands in your pockets when walking on stairs. Don't carry an object tying up your hands and blocking your view. Leave a hand free for the handrail and watch where your feet are going. Avoid things like stepping on tools. Avoid a collision at a blind corner. Step carefully in wet areas. Often in the load lane or rinsing and slump rack areas, the surface may be wet, which can be slippery. Concentrate on every step and walk carefully when in these places. When working around the discharge points of the plant, use caution not to walk directly under the discharge area. Materials may become dislodged and fall on you, even if the equipment is not currently in the discharge mode. Regularly scheduled plant safety inspections will be conducted. During a walking visual inspection around the plant, are steps in a proper state of repair? Are all handrails in place and usable up and down stairways? Are there bags, boxes, or items cluttering walkways, or are they stored neatly? Are there places for washdown hoses to be coiled and hung so that employees may walk through those areas without tripping? Plant walkway inspections for cleanliness need to be performed. And is there excess buildup on the walkways? Does buildup come into contact with water, forming slippery conditions? If so, have the areas cleaned so that slips and trips don't occur. On conveyor belt systems, are all head and tail pulley guards in place? Are all handrails in a good state of repair and available for use? Do emergency stop cords work correctly when pulled? Are the conveyor walkways free of excess material buildup? Safety data sheets need to be kept and accessible to all employees. These product information and first aid remedy sheets will have specific information for various hazardous materials and products found at the plant. When making plant inspections, be observant, be thorough, and if there is a safety hazard or defect you've identified, have it corrected at once. Other areas of particular concern for regular inspections include, but they aren't limited to, aggregate storage areas, confined spaces, dust collection systems, compressed air systems, maintenance shops, warehouses, admixture and color storage areas, cement and fly ash filling areas, truck washout areas, and outside lighting. Whether you're working on a conveyor, a central mix drum, a scale gate, or checking rubber boots, when you inspect or repair a piece of energized equipment at the plant, you first need to lock out and tag out the power sources to the equipment and test it before inspection or repair. Never attempt to clean, oil, adjust, or repair any machine while it's in motion. It doesn't matter that you'll only be in that area for only a few seconds or minutes. That is all it takes for equipment to start without warning and to seriously injure or kill you or another worker in the absence of observing lockout tagout procedures. For more detailed information on lockout tagout, please refer to NRMCA's online safety series, Lockout, Tagout, Tryout in the Ready-Mix Concrete Industry. Always, remember, always, operations of electric-powered equipment can be as safe or as hazardous as you make it. Proper inspection, maintenance, and repairs will keep all personnel safe. First and foremost, a qualified electrician should perform all repairs to any electrical systems. Any electrical repair should be accomplished in strict accordance with lockout and tagout procedures. Make sure that all electrical equipment is properly grounded. During routine plant inspections, make sure that all electrical cables and electrical enclosures are in good condition and kept out of any water. As you can see, there are many people and lots of activity underway at a ready-mix concrete plant. Use safe work practices in every task that you perform at the plant. If you have any questions about safety procedures or tasks, ask your supervisor or the plant manager for instructions before performing these tasks. What we want to leave you with is this, that safety in the workplace is about making sure that each and every worker gets home at the end of the day the same way that they started, healthy and alive. Adhering to sound plant safety practices is just one more way to ensure this happens. NRMCA would like to recognize its affiliation with the Concrete Plant Manufacturers Bureau and its members. The member companies of the CPMB are the NRMCA preferred suppliers of concrete plants, concrete plant equipment. CPMB is an independent nonprofit organization. Its members are the manufacturers of concrete plants, controls, plant mixers, and air quality equipment for the concrete industry. These members are committed to your success, and they are definitely committed to maintaining safe plant operations. Now, for more information about programs offered by NRMCA and CPMB, please call or visit them online.
Amanda, you good?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. So the only thing I'll add to that is just remember, anytime you go into a new facility, it's important for you to ask the folks that work there, tell me about the particular safety procedures at this plant. Is there anything that I should know? It's the most important thing you're going to do, and especially early on, is keep yourself safe, keep yourself out of harm's way. So moving on to the concrete production process, we're going to talk a little bit about, how does concrete become concrete? We'll talk a little bit about the dispatch and logistics and production, but an order comes in from our customer, hopefully days before the pour is actually required. It gets put into this computer system, which we have at every concrete location. They work a little different depending on which operating company you're at, but and then a schedule is created to meet the demand for those customers. So every day we'll create a schedule for tomorrow that will have every single load that we're expecting to make the following day. And then the trucks are dispatched from that to load at the plant. One of the things that they'll put into that system is a concrete mix design. And so projects are set up and they have specific mix designs that have been agreed with the specifier and the customer to meet the design requirements for the project. What comes out of our system, and it comes from our QC system into the system you saw there for dispatch, basically shows the design weights that will be weighed up by a computerized batching system. And these are calculated off the specific gravities and absolute volumes of the individual constituents. And they're working to get to a cubic yard, which is right here, 27 cubic feet, and right around 145 pounds per cubic foot. The batch control system at the plant looks like this. The mix designs come across from the system at dispatch or at the plant. And they've been input by QC and can't be changed by any other personnel. This is where the weighing process, so it'll bring the mix design right here in the upper left-hand corner over, and we'll start the weighing process. And all of these here represent the vessels for holding raw materials. It's computer controlled batching, and so done to a very tight tolerance in order to make sure that the performance of the concrete is as consistent as possible. This is kind of just a simplified drawing of a ready mix plant, and it doesn't have all the superstructure with the office and the batch room and all that, but just to kind of give you an idea of what it is. So these bins on the left-hand side are holding raw materials, sand and stone and gravel. These silos over here hold cement and fly ash or blast furnace slag, and they all get weighed by the computer into this weigh hopper right here, and the truck will be under here and will load through this spout right there. So it's relatively simple. It takes about between 3 and 5 minutes in order to do, but the weighing is focused on accuracy, and so that will perform at a very high level. This is a concrete delivery vehicle. It is they come in a couple of different shapes and sizes, but this is a specific one out of our group in Houston. The concrete rides in this barrel right here and will spin most of the time that it is that the concrete is in the truck. Once batched, then there's a mandatory mixing requirement. So there's a certain amount of turns on that drum that have to happen in order for that concrete to be ready to ship. After that, the truck leaves the plant to deliver to a specific job site, and on site, the driver is adjusting mix water to make sure that the mix stays within the requested tolerances that are required by the job. So concrete placing, what you see on the picture on the left is a concrete pump, and the concrete is being discharged into this hopper right here, and then is being pumped up and over a structure and back down to the slab that is being placed on in this particular case. So pumps are one of the ways that you can place concrete. There's also conveyors that are available in a couple of different ways. It can also come right out of the tailgate, which is this piece right here, and dumped right into the forms. Once we've delivered the concrete and it's on here, then the rest of the work is going to be performed by the customer's finishing crew. And at that stage, concrete is also often tested to make sure that it's met the specification that's been designed. And that testing will take place in kind of 2 different ways. One is the plastic or testing related to wet concrete, and then they'll make specimens so that they can test what the hardened characteristics will be after the concrete is set up. So I want to talk a little bit about measuring the business. What you see here on the left is actually a new system that we're just implementing at Summit Materials, and there'll be similar pages to this for all product lines actually, but this is one of the concrete pages. And it'll show you some of the things that we can measure, but things that we'll be looking at to make sure that we're running a good ready mix business. Things like cycle time, cubic yards per driver hour, which is an efficiency measure, batching accuracy, which basically lets you know how close to the mix design recipe did you batch into each individual load and over the course of time. Order performance, so how well does a customer do as far as meeting what he ordered? Did he go way over or way under? That has to do a lot with the efficiency you have as a group. And then of course margin, which is the one we'll get talked about in a lot of different ways. But that's essentially what pays for us to do what we're doing, and so it's very important. So with that, obviously I put my contact information in here. I'm glad to answer any questions, so please write down my contact information and email me or call me. The most important thing for you now is to get answers to your questions so you learn as fast as possible. So I want to do whatever I can to contribute to that. And just so you know what the background picture is there, that's actually a slice of a concrete structure so that you can see what the inside matrix of concrete looks like. So with that, I believe I'm done.